Welcome back to Hey Alexa, I'm Ryan. My wife Michelle and I are a millennial couple trying to get out of debt so that one day we can live our dream life. Michelle is not here today because she has had like a really crazy week at work, and so I thought I'd just give her a little bit of time off doing this video solo, but I promise she'll be back very soon. And honestly, I wanted to share a little bit of my own personal story here. When I was single, and I've mentioned this before, but I used to just like keep all my saving in my checking account, and I wasn't really saving for anything in particular. I would just kind of let that dollar amount rise and rise. It had a good interest rate, which is weird, I know, but it did, and so I thought, well, this makes sense, like money-wise in my head, right? But sometimes just because numbers add up doesn't mean that it practically makes sense. Because even though I thought I was saving a lot, and the number was going up, looking back, I realized I really wasn't saving as much as I could have been. Think about it this way. Say you grab a bag of chips so that you can go watch New Girl or whatever. And you sit down and you start eating your potato chips and you think, I'm just going to have a little bit. But then by the time the episode's over, you realize you've gone through an entire bag of wavy ruffle potato chips that you bought at Aldi an hour ago for your wife, and they're totally gone. And you're like, man, maybe I shouldn't have eaten that much. Alternatively, you could have gone and just poured yourself a bowl of potato chips, gone to watch your show, and then you might have found that after you finished that limited bowl of potato chips, you really didn't want to go back to the kitchen to grab yourself another one. It just wasn't worth it. The same thing can happen with your savings. You see, I had all my savings all lumped together. I wasn't really saving for anything in particular. I just knew that I should be saving. I used to find myself going to the grocery store to buy like a Ben & Jerry's little pint of ice cream, right? And I'd be sitting there trying to make the decision, and in that day, when I had all this money in my checking account, I would look at it and be like, oh shoot, like I can pay for this. What's $5 next to like a few thousand, right? It seems like nothing. However, if you actually separate your savings, you might find when you go to look at this little pint of ice cream, you're like, holy cow, like if I look at my checking account, I've only got like enough money to pay my bills. This $5 is actually kind of a lot, even though I've got all this money saved over here. The first step is to practically save, to give your money somewhere to go. We do this probably a little bit differently than most people because we actually have a bunch of different what we call sub-accounts on our master account that we keep all of our money in that we save for different things. We found that there are basically 3 different types of savings accounts. At least that's how we think about it. You've got your emergency savings, which is basically for, you know, any big catastrophe that goes wrong. Loss of job, big medical expense, something that's kind of life-changing. Number 2, you've got your maintenance on maybe your cars, because at least for us, we have a couple old cars as we've talked about a ton of times on this channel, and so things go wrong on those cars all the time, and so that's an account that we're pulling out of constantly. And thirdly, there's short-term savings. This is for things like maybe you're saving for Christmas, maybe you're saving for gifts for one another, it could be a car, it could be, even a down payment on a house. I think all of those things qualify as short-term savings. So short-term being a pretty loose word, we're talking about things that are like over the next couple of years or so. So we have found it best to actually have separate sub-accounts for each one of these savings because it keeps your money in order. The best use case example of this that I can think of is our car maintenance budget. We are pulling out of that budget all the time, and when it's something that you have to pull out of, it can be easy if you have all your savings lumped together. If I'm pulling out of this one savings account and then I'm also putting money into it, I can lose track of what I'm actually pulling the money from. So let's say, for instance, that I've got a $600 car payment, but I only have $400 in my car maintenance account. Well, then it's easy to see, okay, I'm $200 short, that money's got to come from somewhere. Maybe I need to spend a little bit less when I'm shopping, kind of like my previous example. But if you have all of your money just in one big lump sum savings account, but when you pull that $600 out, you may not realize that you're actually stealing $200 from somewhere else, and that may affect your spending habits. So that's why for us, it's helpful to at least break out those 3 different types of sub-accounts into different areas. Now then within that, you can also break things down further, depending on how your account is set up. For us, we actually have something called savings goals at our financial institution. I think this is becoming more and more popular, so you should check it out on your own banking app to see if they have it, or you might be able to use an external app to do the same sort of thing. If nothing else, you can use an Excel spreadsheet or a Google Sheet. Guys, you got the tools. What I'm talking about is setting apart different savings goals that all break apart your one sub account that you have for your short-term savings. So for ours, we've broken our short-term savings account into like 3 or 4 different savings goals that we're saving for. And luckily, at our financial institution, it actually tracks these things for us, and it can tell us like, hey, are we on target for our goal or are we falling behind? That helps us to really get an idea of where we're at with our saving and if we're gonna hit our savings goals on time. Now, next week we actually have a video coming out about how do you even figure out how much you should be saving for each of these different things, and when you can set those goals for. How do you decide what goals you're gonna put first? So be on the lookout for that video coming very soon. Now that brings us to part 2 of this video. The second step is saying, okay, like, I have to actually do it, because it was months before we started our actual savings when we said, hey, we need to save, and we made all these accounts and we said this is what we're gonna go do, and it took us months before we actually started putting the money into those accounts and saving for things, which is so crazy to say. We're not perfect, and we're here right with you on this journey, but I just want to tell you from our experience that automating that savings is crucial. So this is super simple. Most financial institutions have this set option available. So go to your online banking or your app and say like, hey, every month I want to set up this savings. The next thing is to be conscious of when you have big bills coming out. So we have all sorts of different expenses. Some expenses are larger than others. Rent for us is one of our biggest expenses, and that comes out at the very beginning of the month. So we've set all our savings to come out other weeks of the month. So that way all of our money movement is happening across the month, because you want to be conscious of when money is coming into the account and when it's going out of the account, and keep track of that cash flow. Finally, we've also put an alert on our account so that once it drops down below a certain dollar value, we get alerted to that happening. There are 3 great things about having that notification set up. First of all, you can think, oh shoot, I don't have a whole lot of money left. Maybe I need to be careful, like I have automated saving coming out tomorrow. Maybe I ought to like cut that for now because I don't want to go negative in my account. Second, you can be conscious of like how much you're spending out at the grocery store. Maybe it's even filling up on gas. It's like, shoot, I don't want to fill up a whole tank of gas. I only want to fill up half a tank because I just want to be careful to make sure that my account doesn't go below 0. And finally, 3, it's like a security thing, because somebody could have somehow gotten access to your account, and that'll let you know, ooh, we shouldn't have dropped below that dollar amount. Let me go see what purchases are in there. And then you see these aren't us, and you can go dispute that with your financial institution. Once this is all set up, you can relax, take a nap, have a vacation, as long as it's been budgeted, and you can truly just let your finances take care of themselves. You've got everything set up. Now, I would make sure, like I said, keep an eye on your account, make sure nothing funky's going on. But I'll tell you what, it is so exciting to me, and I think to Michelle as well, to be able to look at our account and say, hey, if we keep to our budget every month and nothing else crazy happens, we're gonna hit our goals on time. Like, we set these goals up, the savings is automated, that money is going to be there. As long as we don't actively go in and change it, we're gonna hit our goals. And how exciting is that? I mean, how often do you look at your goals and say, well, I don't know if that's gonna happen, but this is actually going to happen, and there's so little that can stop you. Obviously, life is full of surprises, things change, and you have to adjust. But this is a huge step in the right direction. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, if you would just hit that like button, subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, because that stuff helps us out. And that way we can bring more people along on our journey, and we can give you more financial tips along the way. And as always, don't forget to budget wisely, compromise kindly, and always be authentically you. We'll see you guys in the next one.